Hello and welcome to Digital Trust World 2021. My name is Alan Goode and I'm the CEO and Chief Analyst at Goode Intelligence. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Phil Dunkelberger, CEO of Nok Nok Labs. I'm talking with Phil today as we have recognized him as being a visionary in the field of authentication. The Goode Intelligence Visionaries Award is recognition for outstanding and lasting impact in the digital trust industry. And we have awarded Phil the 2021 Authentication Visionaries Award in recognition of the innovation that he has personally brought to the industry and the lasting impact he has brought through the development and adoption of FIDO authentication as CEO of Nok Nok. I'm delighted that Phil has joined me today to officially receive this award and for him to walk us through his work in security and authentication and to share with us his views on the latest innovation in this area. Phil has broad experience resulting from more than 30 years in technology. Prior to leading Nok Nok, Phil served for 8 years as co-founder and CEO of PGP Corporation, the leader in the enterprise data protection market, until acquired by Symantec in 2010. He has significant experience in SaaS infrastructure and in enterprise software, having served as entrepreneur in residence at Dole Capital Management, DCM, president and CEO of Embark, and COO of Vantiv Corporation. He's also held senior management positions with Symantec, Apple Computers, and Xerox Corporation. Phil has served on several boards of directors and currently serves as the advisory board of Ionic Security. He is founding member of the Cybersecurity Industry Alliance, the CSIA. Phil, you have many years of experience in technology and you've played an important part in some great innovations. Tell us about your background and some of the highlights you've seen in authentication and cybersecurity implementation.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you for this very wonderful honor. I'm very, very happy and pleased to be here and hopefully contribute to the listeners' appreciation of the journey that many of the innovations I've been involved with or been around have had on the industry. So we'll start my career with Xerox Corporation, where I was involved with the group that brought Ethernet and graphical user interfaces, laser printing on the network, 600 DPI print, what you see, what you get, WYSIWYG usability, icons on the window that you click on versus command line things. All of that technology, cutting edge technology that we take for granted today. I was with Xerox when they introduced local area networking at that level and those usability capabilities to the market. Underlying that, many of the people at Xerox came out of the military in their background. And so security was imbued in all of those things initially, whether it was the network layers, the transport layers within the network layers, whether it was how people logged in, how things were encrypted in storage. All of those things back in my very early days of innovation were about dealing with authentication, encryption, and security principles that are core to the internet today. From there, I moved from there to Apple, who popularized many of Xerox's ideas in the Mac architecture. And from there was the federal government market manager, where that was critical in dealing with the US federal government and their standards. And really the standards work of XNS and X.25, the pad that it used, all of these standards imbued me, even at Apple, that you had to be able to work not proprietarily, but broadly across industry to get industry-wide adoption. So those two big companies really framed it. And then I left the hardware market, so to speak, and went to software. And I was at Symantec when we really made the move from what I'll call desktop software into the utility business. And one of the key pieces of utility that we had was the idea of not just antivirus, but really looking at what do you do with the distributed computing environment and how do you protect the PC more holistically. And one of those things became encryption, and one of the other things became access control. So in my long time in the industry, this is my 40th year in the industry. In those 40 years, I've been involved with many of the things from networking to user interface to ultimately authentication and encryption. And of course, that led me to be the CEO twice of PGP. It led me to help PGP become an industry standard for encryption to allow people to whisper on the internet and really democratize the use of encryption around the world. And coming out of that, having Symantec bought it, as you alluded to early in my bio, really looking at coming out of that and taking the lessons learned there And could we apply those same lessons to strong authentication, which became the basis of the FIDO protocol and became the stand-up of Nok Nok Labs as a company. So sorry for to your listener, the long history of my 40 years, but ultimately that's the things that shaped and formed my thinking in and around the space we're in today.
Thank you. That's an amazing experience. So what's been your proudest achievement, I think, in your career to date?
I think my proudest achievement would be that finding a way to work in a standards way and yet add significant innovation around security, because security and innovation really tend not to be looked at hand in hand. Usability and security are not looked at hand in hand. And in both ways, both my PGP experience of building the PGP Universal Server with that team and being able to do key management in a box, which took it off having to do key signing parties and all of the old nature of PGP, really to start bringing forward ways of using encryption and strong encryption from one entry point. The other was working with the governments globally that I have for standards. And that work that we did at PGP to make PGP an accepted both standard and something acceptable to government, that same capability is something I'm proud of, that we started Nok Nok with that same underlying goal of really being able to make an industry standard for both usability and strong authentication. At the same time, working with people in the GDPR, PSD2, those regulatory regimes, those privacy regimes that would help the user, not just the organization or corporation. So that has been true of my two major security only roles. And the thing I'm probably most proud of is the standards we've been able to achieve, the usability that we've been able to implement. And then I think lastly, I literally stand on the shoulders of anybody I've ever worked with. I didn't get here on my own. I've had tremendous technical teams. I've had amazing talent around me, certainly the people that have backed us with both venture and the customers, and mostly the customers that have enriched my life, that the solutions that we put in have actually helped them. Because if we're not really solving problems in technology, what are we really doing? So fundamentally, ultimately, it's the customer satisfaction, the referenceable customers, and their help in building these solutions that I'm really proud I was able to partner with them on.
That's excellent. Thanks, Phil. So what are your thoughts on the trends for the future? What do you think is next for authentication?
I think that we've got to get out of authentication as a vertical bolt-on. I think that too many industries today, too many regulatory regimes are not looking at the problem holistically. I'm asked a lot about, was FIDO really about, getting rid of passwords? And I can tell you from day one of my involvement, that was never even in the top 5. Getting rid of passwords is something people have been talking about since about the time the passwords were instituted on a mainframe, that they were hard to use, hard to remember, hard to manage. That hasn't changed in the 50 plus years of that invention. That was just in the parlance of what we, everybody uses in a casino, a poker game, of jacks are better to open the bidding. That was just low hanging, and I would say it was walking around fruit. Getting rid of passwords was a byproduct of what we designed the protocol to do. And I really think that the exceptional nature of where we're seeing our customers use the protocol is one step in the right direction. FIDO was designed as a protocol to be a plug and play built into infrastructure. It was not about being an endpoint most people who just stop at reading the specification, the published spec or the standard spec. It's really about a broad-based use of things like federation of keys, being able to have inherency with those keys, about basically saying that I can do inter and intra ecosystem with one login. I don't have to keep logging in 25 times as I'm moving through a set of back-end processes, that I can talk securely using a key-based system to all those back-end systems. Now, we're not there yet. But when I started this journey roughly 9+ years ago, we were told nobody would ever sign up to this, that the industry wasn't going to sign up to yet another protocol. So that's what I think the industry on FIDO, and where I think the industry can go, broadly basing this protocol, implementing it deeply, making it part of the infrastructure, not making a bolt-on. as security tends to be. Secondly, I think that the area that's critical is, I think that we have to continue to promote standards, but we can't wait on innovation for the standard to be accepted. I think we've got to work with standards bodies, but we've got to continue to innovate, because ultimately technology innovation is what it's about. It's really about taking things like a plug and play standard for strong authentication at the endpoints, and then innovating around using machine learning and artificial intelligence around the keys, and being able to work with industries that need this protection the most, and over time proliferate it to everybody. So that's the second piece is that. And I think the third piece is, you're going to see a lot of the things that are separate now that we've already included in this journey when we put our products in. You're going to see onboarding, digital onboarding. You're going to see digital ID proofing. You're going to see back-end heuristics. You're going to see AI. All these things come together in and around to make it a much more usable, much more seamless process for authentication, ultimately where the user doesn't do anything. It's not just about, are they using behavioral biometrics or is there FIDO in place? It's really a set of integrated capabilities that make the auth journey of the user, from initial login to any remediation if there's a problem. Ultimately, if they ever, God forbid, have to reset their authentication mechanism, that those things are seamless to the user. Because really it's about, in this world of digital transformation, it's going to be about acquiring new customers globally. You know, there's 5 billion people out there that don't know what a password is. Let's not train them on that, okay? Let's go a different direction. Let's not tell them. And when we get to that point, it's going to be far more usable and far more secure. And then I think I've made my best part of my contribution to the industry over the years.
Excellent. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Phil, for joining us today. And congratulations on being the Goode Intelligence 2021 Authentication Visionary.